Okay, um, welcome back again to this section of weekly market outlook and analysis. All right, very quickly, I will be doing something today. Actually, many people have asked me about news. Did I trade news? Did I follow the news? Or um, what is the implication of news on my strategy? Okay, I would like to say this now. Okay, the reason why I will be presenting this is just for the general followers that are following me, I mean, the general people that are following me, just to see, okay, what is likely to happen in the market for this week. I personally, I don't follow news, right? Because I believe that two things will actually happen when news actually came out or when a news is published. Number one is either the news actually hit my stop loss, right? And number two is either the news actually push the market to actually hit my take profit. So these are the two things that's actually going to happen. And if you understand the forex market very well, you will know that two things is likely to happen. Either there is news or not, right? It's either you hit your stop loss or you hit your take profit, or you close your trade in profit. Right. So I will also acknowledge the fact that we have some situation of the market whereby there might be slippage and probably the market will jump your stop loss. But in most cases like that, I can say 90% of the time, news will always go in my direction. Even some of the time that I will have my trade over the week, if there's going to be any gap, I can say 90% of the time, the gap will also go in my direction. And this is because my my system and trading style is actually according to the market structure and the institutional order flow. And more of the reason why this will always be in my favor anytime. Right. So I don't watch news, I don't see news, whatever is actually going to happen. I believe in my stop loss, in my risk management, and my money management, and I believe in my system so much. So it is possible it hit my stop loss, but most of the time it will push the market to actually hit my take profit. All right. But for this week, this is actually what we'll be looking at. What is actually going to happen? The red box. We have card news on Monday, right? We have AUD news on Tuesday, right? And 5 a.m. That's actually Nigerian time, GMT plus one, right? The AUD pairs, and we have that's actually on Tuesday. We have the OPEC meeting. This is actually red box that I'm actually indicating that might likely happen. Then on Thursday, we have Euro news, we have card news, we have US news, right? We have US news. Then also on Friday, we also have US news. So these are the major news that we'll be looking at for this week. So you will do yourself much more good. Just if you know your strategy, you are not sure of what you're doing, you can follow them and actually close your trade before you have all this news in place. But if you're actually my student and actually following my method, probably my free course or my mentorship class, you should actually know that, okay, the news is actually not our problem. They will come, they will go, and most of the time, they will surely work according to our favor. All right, this week we'll be looking at some pairs today, and I'll be bringing in some other index so that they will help us to focus next week. I mean, in this particular new week that we're going to start today, right? The first that I'm actually going to bring up is the dollar index, right? The dollar index. We're going to look at, okay, what we might likely see on the dollar index, right? As you can see, this is actually dollar, and last week we actually said that, okay, this pair is actually in a bullish, clear bullish order flow, right? And we'll be expecting this market to actually continue to go higher. Then this is actually the weekly time frame, right? And that's actually what we can see. It came back on the daily, right? To came back to retest the other block here, then it was going higher. Then on H4 for this week, this is actually what I will be expecting, that this market should give us a manipulation to the downside before going higher. And most of the time, that is actually what I'm expecting. This pair to come to the downside, probably retest this particular zone here, then actually to go higher. So that is what I will be expecting from this market this week, probably to come to this zone before I will see it going higher. And most of the time, that's actually what I'm expecting, or probably around this zone, this particular order block here, or probably on this line here. Then I want to see it to go higher. So this week, I'll be expecting a bullish dollar, and that's actually what I've analyzed from the weekly and coming back to the daily and the H4, the H1, I can actually see that, okay, this pair is bullish. So I'll just be looking for opportunity to buy the USD pair. So this is actually applicable to the USDPX, right? So another one that I will love us to look into is the the Euro index, right? The Euro index, and as you can see, this is actually the weekly of the Euro index. You can see that this pair has actually been going down. This is very similar to what Euro USD is actually doing. So you can use Euro USD to predict what is actually going to happen on Euro pairs. And this is not an 100% correlations, right? So it is not an 100% correlation. So it's just to give us an head knowledge of what is going to happen. And as you can see, for this week, most of the Euro pairs are actually coming down, except from those ones that they actually have their major pairs that they're actually going higher, right? For Euro USD, Euro GBP, you can see that those pairs and Euro card they actually drop for the week, and this is actually what is happening, right? So this pair is actually in a clear down trend. Then, as you can see on the daily, also on the daily time frame, we can actually see that, okay, this meant took out liquidity, then break market structure, came back to retest this other block, then dropping. So we might actually expect some kind of manipulation when the market open before we see a downside on this pair also. So that shows that for our analysis for this week, we might actually be seeing Euro pairs actually dropping for this coming week. Likewise, on GBP pairs, on the GBP, this is actually a GBP index. On the weekly, we have this pair also in a downtrend, right? In a downtrend, it came up, gave us 3 pushes to the high, took out liquidity, then also started creating a series of higher highs and higher lows. So because of these, our buyers on this pair is actually bearish, right? Then going to the daily, we can also see the same pattern that, okay, this pair is a clear bearish, right? And this is actually where I'm expecting this pair to get to before it drop. Just like what I said on Euro pairs, this is very similar to Euro USD. Very similar, I mean, very similar to GBP USD, right? So what I will be expecting on this pair is also the same. I will be looking for a bearish dollar, right? A bearish GBP, right? That's actually, if possible, right? We check the 84. You can actually see what is going on there. I'll be expecting this particular order block here to be broken. This will actually give me more confirmation to sell this pair. And as you can see, there is a lot of liquidity sitting down here, whereby if this zone is broken, then I will be expecting the market to come here and actually come and raid this low before we can know what to do next. So that is actually the indexes that I actually have for you for this week. And we've actually talked about the dollar index, talk about the euro index, and we talk about GBP index. So this is what will actually guide us in trading those pairs. So if I've actually mentioned that you can actually trade this in line with probably when you see a bearish sign on those pairs, euro pairs and GBP pairs, you can decide to wait for your entry and actually take them down. Also, USD pairs, if you see a sign of bullishness in any of the pair, probably XXX USD, you know you are going to sell it. Then USD SXS, you know you are going to buy them, as the case may be. Now, this is not 100%. The market might open and actually go in another direction. So this is actually going to be at your own discretion to know what to do next, right? So the other pairs I'm actually going to look at for this week, right, is actually on gold. On gold, we can see that on a monthly time frame, this pair is actually very bullish, right? You can see it's very bullish, but unfortunately for it, it's already make a lower high here, then broke this market structure, then came back to retest this particular zone, right? And because of this, if you actually drop to the daily time frame, we can also see our setup forming here. It took out liquidity, break market structure, then it's coming back to the breaker end here, retesting that zone. So for this week, what are we expecting on this pair? If you actually check the 8-4 also, I'll be expecting a bearish gold for this week, right? So I want the market to give me manipulation, and most of that, based on my analysis on this pair, we can have a straight away drop on this, and my target is actually going to be this particular liquidity zone. So if my entry is here, I'm not saying I'm going to enter immediately, because I will still have to wait for my entry pattern before I take this trade. So my target is actually going to be which will give me about 1,700 pips if that structure actually holds. So the next pair I'll be looking at, I've actually talked about the Euro USD, Euro index. So I said that this pair is actually the index is bearish, and that shows what to be expecting on Euro pairs is also bearish, right? For Euro USD, for the weekly, we can see that it's also bearish, right? For the weekly, it's bearish, right? Then the 8-4 also dictates to us that it is actually going down, right? So when the week open, I'll be expecting manipulation to the upside, then for me to actually drop, because I believe in weekly range and daily range. So when the market open, I want to see manipulation to the upside, deceiving people or inducing the people to actually buy the market. Then I actually want to see the market maker breaking their shell by dropping the market downward. Right. So that's actually what I'll be expecting for that pair. Then for USD also on the weekly is actually in it was consolidating at this particular area, but as you can see, it's making higher highs, higher lows, higher lows before it's created a lower high in this area. But we saw it coming back to take out this liquidity. Then after then it broke this market structure. Then on the daily, we can actually see it retesting this particular order block, breaking market structure also. So based on our analysis last week, we said that we're going to expect USD to actually go higher. And that actually has not changed. This week, we'll be expecting a kind of manipulation to the downside, right? Manipulation to the downside, probably to retest another block. Then we'll be expecting it to go much higher, probably to take out this liquidity zone up here. So that's for the USD. Then another pair I'm actually going to talk about today is actually the JOS, right? The JOS, or some people might call it USD30. So I'll be looking at USD30s. Let's start from the weekly. Weekly, we can actually see this pair. It took out liquidity, break market structure. So this is actually a clear downtrend, right? On the weekly time frame. Then on the daily, we can also see the same thing. This pair actually retraced a little bit, retested this block, then is dropping. Then our analysis is actually going to be based on this. If your weekly is bearish and you can actually see a bearish pattern on 8-4 on daily, then that shows that we should expect more downside on this pair, right? So provided if this structure is not taken out, right, if this particular zone is not taken out, I'll be expecting a bearish USD30. And based on my experience, this is actually very related to especially D30 is actually very related to JPY pairs, right? So if this pair is actually going down, JPY pair is also going to go down. And this particular pair is also related to some other indices, right? UK 100, NASDAQ, and DE30. So whatever analysis that we actually have here is automatically applicable to all these other indices that I've made mention of: UK 100, NASDAQ, and DE30. So those are the pairs that you should also be watchful of for this week. And another one I'm going to talk about today is on GBP USD, right? I've made the analysis on the indexes, and this is actually what we'll be expecting, right? The market came and break market structure. Then after taking out all this liquidity, came back to retest it. So on the daily is actually retesting the king OB here, retesting the king, all right? So, and making kind of retracement. Now we're checking the 8-4. We can see it took out liquidity here, then break this market structure. So when the market open, I want to see a manipulation to the downside, and there is a lot of liquidity sitting on here. So this is very possible that this market might take out this high and come here to retest this other block before we see a downside, right? But my analysis for this pair, if all things being equal, it can change, right? Or all things being equal is actually to sell this pair, and my target is actually this low. If that is possible, you can hold it for a long time, or when your stop loss is as tight as mine, because I love using 10 pip stop loss, 5 pip stop loss to actually give me about 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 1 to 30 risk reward ratio, as the case may be. So for this pair, I'm actually very bearish, and I will be expecting to sell this pair. And lastly, we'll be looking at oil, right? We'll be looking at oil for this week. And we can see that this pair is also bearish, right? It's like very bearish, because we have higher highs there, break market structure. Then since then, the market has been creating a lower low, a lower high, right? A lower high here, then a lower low. So we'll be expecting this market to actually create another lower high before we sell this market down. So this can actually lead to the fact that we're going to have a buy to sell setup, right? In my group, we call something a buy to sell. That shows if the market is actually deep down sell, right? That shows the market actually sold a lot. So we'll be expecting the market to actually buy first before we actually see the sell. But however, we are going to have it in mind that this market is actually bearish. So any sign of a bearish market that we see, we're going to sell the market. And nevertheless, if you see a buying opportunity on that pair, we are going to buy it. But we will be very watchful and very careful to see a sell setup on that pair for us to continue with the trend, because you should always stay with the trend, right? So always stay with the trend. Don't always anticipate a reversal. Let the reversal to present itself before you actually go with that. Now, on the daily time frame, you will see what this pair is actually doing. It's already created a breaker. So when the market open, because we are waiting for a buy to sell, we can see a manipulation to the downside, then going for it to go higher, probably get to this zone or this zone before it reverses. However, if the market open, right, and give us a sell setup, we will surely be selling this pair back down. So when the market open and just come back, probably give you a weekly manipulation to the downside, we'll be waiting to actually sell this, buy this pair up, probably to this area before we look for a selling opportunity. However, if a selling opportunity is presented, we will be taking the sell and we are actually going to write it down because it is in a clear downtrend. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your time. You can actually join my channel, my Telegram channel, and actually follow all the analysis I'm actually doing at the beginning of the week or every day. We send setup to the page for the likely trade that might likely happen. Then at the end of the week, we're going to post the result of this trade. And most of the time, out of 30 setup that we have, at least 20 setup will actually work. And if you can actually calculate that with just a trade, you can actually cover for all your losses, because most of our trade are always going for 1 to 6, which is the minimum, 1 to 10, 1 to 20, as the case may be. And also, you can do well to subscribe to this YouTube channel, like, comment, and actually share it with your friends to also come and subscribe to this YouTube channel, so that anytime I upload a video, you can have direct access to it, right? You can have it and find much more useful to it. At the end of the week, I'm going to bring to you the result of this analysis. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good week and a happy trading week. Thank you.